All right, guys, what's going on? My camera is working this time. As soon as I came to this screen, the camera's on, so that's good. So let me know if if there's any audio issues, if there's any camera issues, and I will try to rectify them, but all looks good. Welcome back to another episode of Rukshan on X. As I promised, I will be doing these on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. And on Tuesdays, we have the Opposition Podcast, and Thursdays, we have the Opposition Podcast with Avi Yemeni. But this is my solo show, Rukshan on X. And we didn't do the Opposition Podcast yesterday because Avi was actually covering a protest. I'll show a little bit of that, but we'll probably save the rest of that for tomorrow night's show on the Opposition Podcast. But it is a bit of a late one, guys. I'd like to do these a bit later on in the night for those of us who are up, maybe having insomnia, can't sleep. I'm a late night person. This is when I really catch up with a lot of the news and watch podcasts and catch up on things like that. Just with my work hours and things like this, I just prefer the nighttime. So I thought I'd do something that I like, which is a chill nighttime show. Not evening, sorry, nighttime show. And those of you who can join at this time, join in, jump in on the comments. I'll bring them up on the screen. You can see they are also free flowing. So if you're commenting on Facebook, YouTube, or X, where this is being simulcast, it will show up on the screen. Trolls are, of course, welcome on my show. I don't care about the trolls. If you're putting anything like death threats or anything like derogatory or illegal, I'll most likely remove it, or will have to bar you or ban you, unfortunately, even though I'm not into that kind of thing. We can't have too much of that because it goes against terms and services and so on. So it's up to you. Troll me if you like. I don't care. Most of the trolls give up after a little bit because I don't mind a bit of the banter. So welcome, everyone. Yep. Brendan, I'm not here to troll. I believe you, mate. I believe you're not here to troll me. Look, I will be bringing on comments. It is my second day here in Canberra. I think I shared the other day that I was here in Canberra. I'm doing some work here as a part of my other work that I do. So it's an interesting time to be in Canberra when everything's kind of coming back online for those that rule us in the Houses of Parliament. Now I know they're elected, but everything's a little bit different here in Canberra. When you're in that environment, it feels like it's the most important place, and perhaps the people there think that way as well. So I did share this image of myself. Let me just bring it up. A bit of vanity there. There's Rukshan there standing in front of the Canberra, the Parliament House, the new Parliament House. So opposite is the old Parliament House. Look, it's an interesting place, and people did say, Rukshan, go get a real job. So I will take that as a statement. Despite what you think, people here are actually working, and they work late into the night. So that actually works out for me doing this a bit later on because we finished up work around 7 p.m. or something like this after starting at around 7:30 a.m. or something like this. So it's long days, but great to be with you guys. Thanks for joining in. And if you're a regular, thanks for obviously coming back and watching the show again. So Mondays and Wednesday nights, I do my solo show, if those of you that missed it. And if you're new here, so it's very much a chilled out show talking about all things politics, really. That's my main interest, but I might talk about a little bit of tech, maybe some AI things. And, mostly I like to focus on Australian, Victorian politics as much as possible. But I am a massive fan of, US politics, UK politics, pretty much anything to do with the Western hemisphere of politics. I do follow it all very closely. So I might, touch on some of that as well. But today's a lot of the stuff that I'm covering today is about what's happening in Australia now that Parliament's back in session. So I guess I'll go with the most controversial thing that's happened so far, and this is from someone that's not a stranger to controversy, and that is Senator Pauline Hanson from One Nation. So she actually turned her back in the Senate during a acknowledgement of country that was happening on the opening day of the Senate. And I don't think she attended also the welcome to country that happened in the morning. So before everything else happened on Canberra on Tuesday in the morning, we were at the welcome to country and the smoking ceremony. And it's very interesting. Like I was there, I saw it happening live. And I did share some. Let me just show you what I captured while I was there. I did share some bits and pieces from there. So you had the Aboriginal elders up there with Albanese and Susan Ley on the other side, and the two elders, and then the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, I believe, speaking out first. Then there's the happy couple, opposition leader Susan Ley in the pantsuit, and then you got Albanese there looking very very strict and mean in that shot. So we had the welcome to country inside one of the halls there. And, for someone that's kind of seeing it first time live in the political setting, in the Canberra setting, it does feel like, and I've seen a few people mention this, it does feel like a bit of a humiliation, a subjugation, ritual for the Australian government to take part in. And I know people have all types of views about this, but it does feel like we have, almost like you can see on the stage there, we've got 3 flags there. It's very confusing. You got the Australian flag, you got the Aboriginal flag, you got the Torres Strait Islander flag. And it is somewhat confusing that, we're not all united behind this one country, this one idea of Australia or the Australian flag or the Australian identity. It is very split. And even the source of power, it feels like over time. Now, Albanese's come out and said this should not be controversial. We've been doing this kind of thing since 2007. So it's a very new thing, even though, these traditions are being observed, very dramatically at the beginning of Parliament. Like, this has been given the ultimate respect in terms of being the first thing that happens. And these elders usually, from memory, they spoke first and welcomed everyone to their land and their country. And then, of course, Albanese and Susan Ley both acknowledge that welcome and accept that this is someone else's land and country. And then, go on to proceed to pretend that somehow there's some type of, power structure that exists where everything that happened before, it's like Men in Black. You're meant to forget everything that was said before about this not being your country. And all of a sudden, these are the people who are ruling. So, which is the government of the day. It's all very confusing, is I guess what I'm trying to say, and it's made into this ritual. It feels very, again, much like a humiliation, subjugation type of ritual for the Australian government does on behalf of the Australian people, and it's just accepted. Again, this is not seen. You don't have a welcome to country, for instance, in the United States of America and things like this. But we tend to do this a lot in Australia, and I know famously sometimes on many of the flights here, like from our major airlines like Qantas and things, they'll welcome you to the land and the country. And there's parts of the city of Victoria and Melbourne which is like, it's Naarm and it's this place and that place, and I just don't buy into it all. I think it should be one country, acknowledge the history, fine. Maybe even it's acceptable in some instances when these individuals are speaking for them to talk about their history. That's all fine. But I think in matters of government, we're already a part of the, in the sense of the tradition, having a governor general, royal assent. So our constitution is linked to the British monarchy in a way, into the British system, even though we're far removed from that. But this feels different, and it's just another layer that's added on top. And we're seeing the real impacts of it with things like native title. We got parts in Victoria now where, even though the voice to Parliament was rejected, nationwide it was rejected. Victoria, we got these treaties being signed by the state government, going above everything that people thought was going to happen after they voted against the voice to Parliament. These treaties and these pacts that hand over land to Aboriginal corporations and groups, and then all of a sudden, Australians, apparently we're all Australians, but we can't access those areas anymore without getting permission from these unelected groups. It's all very confusing, and I think it's only going to get messier and messier as these type of groups, coalesce more and more power over time, and they are. These are very ritualistic. Like if you look at, what happened after that, everyone went outside, all the politicians went outside, and they, covered themselves in the smoke. That's something you see at, I don't know, I've seen it before at like Hindu temples, sometimes at church when they take around smoke in certain denominations, but Hindu rituals, you see that kind of getting the blessings of like a god or something. So it is very kind of ritualistic, and almost everyone that was there in terms of the politicians, bar a few, went through the smoke and got blessed. Whatever that means. I don't even know if these people know what this means. I think it's just all performative. And I understand maybe culturally that these people want to have a smoking ceremony and things, and maybe we can observe that. But now it's involving everyone to the extent of, I think a few hundred people maybe went through this smoke. So there's more scenes from that. You can see the people walking through the smoke. I have seen smoking ceremonies before, but I haven't paid attention, but I haven't seen, most of our politicians take the knee in this way. Yeah, someone said paganism. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I got a super chat here. I'll read the super chat. Thanks, Gap Media. I enjoy your show, my friend. Thanks, mate. It's a very chill show. I'm not very, super serious in terms of the way I do the formatting of this. Someone did say yes. Topher and Carly's podcast is on. I'm so sorry, Topher and Carly. I don't know. We're always clashing on times. Maybe I got to do it a bit earlier than on Wednesdays. I don't want to clash with the other guys, but I didn't think they'd be doing it at 9 o'clock. I thought they'd been doing it earlier. But that's all right. You can watch my show. You can watch theirs. I don't mind. But yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about, the welcome to country, and a politician that's made a massive statement on that. Like I said, who's no stranger to controversy is Pauline Hanson. And I'm just going to play you this clip from the news around this.
Inside, a relatively recent tradition.
I welcome you all to Ngunnawal country and to beautiful Canberra.
Peter Dutton made it a controversial one in the election campaign.
It is not controversial today.
But spoke too soon. Pauline Hanson and her One Nation senators turning their backs on the acknowledgement of country. Inside, a relatively recent tradition.
I welcome you all to Ngunnawal country and to beautiful Canberra.
Peter Dutton made it a controversial one in the election campaign.
It is not controversial today.
But spoke too soon. Pauline Hanson and her One Nation senators turning their backs on the acknowledgement of country. Inside, a relatively recent tradition.
I welcome you all to Ngunnawal country and to...
Sorry guys, I let that repeat, but you saw that. And I just wanted to show you this clip of Pauline Hanson. She's got 2 new senators there as well, besides just Malcolm Roberts, who's in there for, I think, a 3rd term. They're all turning their backs on there and making a statement. And yeah, obviously, a majority of people in that parliament don't do that. And some people, don't agree with it. They don't really respect it, but they don't, show it in this manner. But Pauline Hanson and One Nation have decided to do this. And I have seen a lot of coverage of this and a lot of people talking about this online. So that's why I wanted to, give my thoughts on this as well. This is something, I think it's good in the sense if you don't want it, if you don't like it, turn your back onto it. Don't take part in it. Don't turn up. It is being forced onto people. It's a ritual of sorts. Every single Tom, Dick, and Harry in that parliament, from Labour or Liberal mostly, and the Greens, they all do this acknowledgement to country or welcome to country before they say anything. And it's just ridiculous. Like, you don't see them, acknowledging the king or the queen, even though our constitution goes back to all that. You don't see them even acknowledging Australia before they speak. But for some reason, it's this virtue signaling that they do. And it just becomes too much at a point, I believe. And, I personally agree with this type of stance. Now, I personally, would I, turn my back on the welcome to country or whatever? Probably no. I just don't care about it. I just don't make a big deal of it. But, in terms of leadership, politicians maybe who are forced to take a position, or community leaders, yeah. I mean, I think it's fine that they did this. I know some of the other people are saying nasty things about them now, saying that they're, racist or they're causing division within community. I would argue the opposite. I believe the welcome to country is divisive. it does make people feel like they don't belong in this land to be welcomed all the time. It does confuse people who are perhaps, even new to Australia, migrants, about what it means to be Australian. Who are your allegiances to in this country? And this is I wanted to share these two contrasting statements, and maybe it's a matter of political ideologies, I don't know. But Anthony Albanese said, the welcome to country is such a powerful way to begin a new parliament. And then Jacinta Price, who's a national senator now, said it's not welcoming. Not a national senator, sorry, Liberal. It's not a welcoming. It's telling non-Indigenous Australians, this isn't your country, and that's wrong. And I completely agree with Jacinta Price on that statement. And she's, of course, an Indigenous woman saying that. Now, I know there's many Indigenous people that support the welcome to country and the acknowledgement of country and push for these things. But perhaps they look at this in a different way. They look at this in the sense of that difference needs to be highlighted, that our ownership or our rights or our history needs to be more acknowledged, because we are the rightful owners or the heirs to this country. Whereas Jacinta Price is someone who talks more about Australians as being one people, despite history, despite whether you're Aboriginal, you're a British settler, or European settler, or you've recently immigrated to Australia. She views everyone as Australian, and I'm more in line with that type of view. But of course, Albanese and the Labor government, who have a big, massive, I guess, power majority when it comes to not really needing to rely on the Liberal Party whatsoever. I think they're going to push more of this type of agenda this year. And obviously during this 48th Parliament this term, they're really going to push these things because they feel like they have some type of mandate for it, even though people rejected the voice to Parliament. Maybe it's a form of taking revenge on the public. And on the other hand, you do have members of Parliament like this, someone called Alex James shared this from X. And it says, do you support her? And she was in there wearing the Australian flag as her outfit. Now she's, I believe, the member for Fowler. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. And, she's Vietnamese in background. And here she is wearing the Australian flag with pride and being proud of the country of Australia. And of course, again, you're seeing a stark difference between this type of patriotism and respect for the country, and of course the other, where we don't acknowledge maybe Australia or the flag. So there is a massive, I guess, difference of views in Parliament, but predominantly most people in that space are beholden to the welcome to country and the acknowledgement of country and all those type of ceremonial things that we do, which seems like a massive concession of power and the identity of Australia. Like, it's very confusing. So that was that. Let me see what comments that you guys have written about this, and I'll see if there's anything that I wanted to chat about. Yeah, we are all Australians. We don't need welcome to country. 100%. We are all Australian. We don't need that. I think the national anthem. I would have loved the day to start with them, everyone singing the national anthem. Maybe that would be nice, right? Skippy the Roo says, "I'm a kangaroo. I don't need to be welcomed." That's right. You are very much a part of Australia, Skippy. You don't need to be welcomed. Welcome to country needs to be at the airport like Hawaii. I loved going to Hawaii and getting the flower necklaces. Okay, that's interesting. So Natalie's saying, for instance, when you land in Hawaii off the plane flight, sometimes, I've never been to Hawaii. Maybe someone can tell me if this happens all the time. But they do put those necklaces and stuff anyway. I've seen it on the movies, so it happens in real life. So maybe as people exit the airport, you can have a welcome to country ritual done, or a smoking ceremony inside our airports, maybe as they exit to Australia. I mean, the aeroplanes do it, right? They welcome you to the. It must be confusing for people that land here, thinking they're coming to Australia, especially if you don't know about all this stuff. and then you're told like, welcome to like, Wurundjeri country or Nam. You're like, what? Wasn't I on my way to Melbourne? Like, it must be like this for some people. Tess says it's something a lot of people are doing now. Happened at a solstice evening in Macedon Ranges. Hadn't seen it before, but totally agreed with it. That's interesting. So I think you're talking about the welcome or acknowledgement of country. Look, again, I do weddings, and sometimes I see before the marriage ceremony starts, the couple through the celebrant will do an acknowledgement of country before the wedding starts. Like, I've seen that a few times, and on some, I think some venues it must be a part of the conditions of getting married there, because there are certain venues that I was doing where it was almost every single wedding I did there was an acknowledgement of country before the ceremony actually started. So it is, yeah, everyone gets off the plane and walks through a dense cloud of smoke. Welcome to Australia. Les says, been to Hawaii twice and it doesn't happen. So there you go. You shattered my illusion of what it's like to travel to Hawaii. We want a welcome to stream. I might start doing that for my show. A welcome to stream. Might smoke something and maybe get a vape or something. Create the smoke and do it that way. But yeah, look, my final thoughts on this is that Australia is a country that apparently we hear all the time is diverse, multicultural, all these things. But for some reason, and we're apparently like, there's no apartheid here, there's no separation, there's none of these things. But for some reason, the government in this country and the institutions, sporting bodies, everyone loves to continue to separate Australians and say that they're different. And some people have more rights to land than you. Some people have more connection to this country than you. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And maybe they do. But it doesn't match up with the Australia they try to portray. Either you go all in or you stop pretending and stop this virtue signaling, because it's just, again, I think dividing people further and further and confusing everything. Yeah. Welcome to Nando's. Yeah, I would do a welcome to Nando's before I start. So let's have a look at what Portia said. It's the comment, always will be, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. That rubs people the wrong way. It is very divisive and is often yelled out in a defiant way. Welcoming people is not a big deal, but it's how they say it and what they say. Do they welcome when they're welcoming people from other countries for sports, etc. at weddings is ridiculous. Yeah. This notion of always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Again, it's just virtue signaling. But having said that, they're being very successful, these Aboriginal groups, backed by many left-wing organizations and these kind of Labour-style governments in pushing this and handing over land rights and making places restricted areas for Australians to go to now without these unelected individuals deciding where Australians can go and can't go. Now, this is currently impacting a lot of people that like to go hiking, walking, go to different national parks, maybe to camp or whatever it is that they're doing, or drive through. So, yeah, I think that we don't notice it too much, but once it starts creeping into maybe suburbs that you live close to, or changing certain ways that you interact with your community or places you can do certain activities, whether it's like recreational activities like fishing or things like this, then the wider community, of course, will be impacted. I don't think it's good. I think that the sooner you end this nonsense and just go with this idea that that happened in the past, whatever happened, Australia was settled, I believe, in a way that many parts of the world has been settled, and rightfully, despite the history, this is Australia. It's a new country, and the history doesn't matter as much as people think about when it comes to ownership of land and things like this today, because of all that stuff. I just don't think it works that way. But because it's been made racist and all this other nonsense, we just keep going on and on about it. And I don't need to repeat myself. You know how divisive all of this becomes. But look, The next story I wanted to do is the Parliament has returned. Parliament is back. So let's see what they're talking about in Parliament. Now that it's back, let's see what the focus is on. We've got here a Labour MP. Let's have a look at what she's talking about. Parliament has returned, and for the first time, 56% of Labour MPs are women, Catherine King says. All right, 56% are women. So let's hear what she has to say.
We're making history. We have the first majority female parliament in our history. And you can see from behind me that Labor has been doing the lion's share of that work. We also have the first majority female cabinet, again in our history, and that means more women are in the cabinet room making decisions that impact on women. Having women in the room matters, and making sure women are representing across the country also does not happen by accident. You have to purposely do it. Yeah. We're making history.
So that's the major thing that I think the Labour people kind of have been talking about in their own little bubble, is about the fact that, you know, majority women in the Labour Party, which is, look, I mean, merit based. Women getting there on their own, merit based. It's great. I think that's you know, if that's what they want to do, go into politics, it doesn't matter, right? But not a lot of this seems contrived, at least to me, in the way that Labour really loves these quotas and pushing these type of things. So whether it's merit-based or not, I'm leaning less towards thinking that it's merit-based, and Labour just love having these type of, you know, symbolic virtue signalling style victories. Now, we do know that, at least for this parliament, like they're saying, 56% women from the Labour side, and, you know, biggest Labour cabinet or ministerial team or whatever they're talking about in history. Will it be wrong then for people in when things go wrong in the government to point the finger at women? You know, they are taking on more responsibility by making a massive thing about gender, but about how it's going to make a difference. Well, let's see what happens. We are seeing in Victoria, we have a lot of these quota style systems, non-merit based ways that the Labour Party operates there as well. And we're seeing how disastrous Victoria is. I really don't believe in this kind of quota nonsense, obviously. It's got to be the best person for the job. And to think that maybe Labour is just pre-selecting women just because they want to make their quotas and things like this. Yeah. I don't understand the type of people that look at this and go, wow, you know, this is a great thing. I believe that the playing field should be equal for men and women if they wanted to enter into politics. And the barriers should not be there for either sex. Of course, when we're talking about Labour and the Greens, you know, there's also a lot of other genders and things to consider as well. But you know, those barriers shouldn't be there, obviously, and there should be equal opportunities to get into these positions. But if it's just happening just to fill these quotas and make these kind of nice little videos, I don't know what that means for the country and for the results that we will see. But you know, they've made a big point of it. Maybe people that think like me will be proven wrong. Someone says it's about winning elections. Perhaps, I mean, there is an appeal to that about saying. I'll show you some other videos later from an opening Senate speech where, you know, this one of the new Labour members, I think for Western Australia, she brought her baby in to talk to, not to talk. The baby wasn't talking, but she brought her baby in to give her opening remarks to the Senate. So could be performative. I don't know. I just think I've never really thought about, you know, women shouldn't be in Parliament or this and that. Never thought that way. I think, you know, if the merit base is the best person for the job, there are, you know, very smart, talented, accomplished women in Australia that should be in politics, right? Fair enough. They should be in politics and they should be, you know, in leadership positions in our country. That should go without a doubt. But you know, Labor's making a big scene of it. So let's see what that means, because they're putting themselves up to that standard and they're making this a massive victory in terms of how progressive they are. Everyone in Parliament should be made to do a basic economics test on how the economy works. Wonder how many would pass. Yeah, that's a great entry requirement. You know, depending on the type of test. Now, again, you want to have a mix of people in Parliament for sure, but usually, at least what I've seen today, a lot of these Labour people seem to come through the Labour Party system, even though they try to pretend like they're everyday, Aussies type things with they just randomly, made their way to Parliament. No, they come through the union system. A lot of them have links within these kind of systems that they've built over time, and they end up there. So it's only in the minor parties that you really see people coming out of nowhere in terms of their backgrounds and really making it on their own as such. Gap Media's got an interesting question. It's not about winning elections, it's about losing elections. I don't have the full understanding of what you're trying to say, mate, but it could mean a lot of different things, so I'll leave it as a statement for now. Albanese, at the same time... Oh, sorry, actually, before that, this is the leader of the opposition. And this is Susan Ley. This is the image that she put up today. So she's ready. So just keeping to the theme of women. So the opposition leader, of course, is a woman. It's the first time in the coalition's history that there's a woman as the leader of the Liberal Party and they're in opposition. But this is her power photo. She's ready for the first official day in a pink power suit. I gotta say, I think she's trying really hard. I think she's trying to really kind of posture herself as being confident, and she might be. I don't know too much about her, but I just wanted to share this because it very much gave me Hillary Clinton vibes in the pink suit. It gave me vibes of Nancy Pelosi in the pink suit. This is the power move by Susan Ley, the opposition leader. So let's see how successful she is. Some of you guys are already saying that Mr. says you downloaded the wrong Charlie's Angels. John says she won't be there for long. This is a great comment. Can she define what a woman is? Well, this is the thing, right? I think a lot of these Labour women that are talking about these quotas and about how there's so many women, if you actually ask them what a woman is, like Regina, puts here, they would have a very difficult time defining what a woman is in Australia, right? So we've seen Trump push back against that in America, and there was actually a success on that today. I think the Olympics committee. I'll try to look up that story. Actually, let me just pull up that story because I'm just going to go on a bit of a tangent. Olympics ban. Oh yeah, here we go. ABC is not happy about this story. Let's have a look. Transgender athletes effectively barred from representing the United States at the Olympics and Paralympics. The U.S. Olympics, read the short part. In short, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has changed its policy on its website to effectively ban transgender athletes. The organization said it was obliged to follow an executive order issued by President Donald Trump in February. And the U.S., of course, is hosting the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. I mean, look, Trump's done a great thing in terms of standing up for women and really pushing back against this, I guess, the erosion of women's rights, really, if you look at it honestly, without being all, progressive and left-wing about it. Really, what they were doing was allowing men who identified as women, transgender in this instance, to compete in women's sports, and they have an unfair advantage. And we saw, I'm going to go through all the details. We might go through this tomorrow on the opposition podcast. We saw the boxing matches where there were questionable individuals who may have been men before transitioning, and other things like this, beating up women. And we see that in the sports sector all the time, in different fields where just, genetically men have an advantage even when they transition. So what Trump has done in that executive order, and this massive thing that it's caused in the US, especially with the Olympics committee, banning these transgender athletes, is a massive win for women. But in Australia, it wouldn't be seen that way, which is why I went off on that tangent. Because even though we're talking a lot about women, even the major parties, I think Liberal and Labor, depending on who you speak to, definitely Labor and the Greens, they would have a very hard time defining what a woman is, even though women are being celebrated, and it's insane. I'll just get these super chats. I've got 2 super chats to get to, so let's have a look at them. Abby, thanks for the super chat and thanks for tuning in. I know you tune into the Opposition podcast, so it's great to have you watching this show as well. Abby says, I don't think this is ideal, but then again, the men in Parliament seem to be weak, emotional pushovers, so will there be much of a difference? It's true. I'm not saying the men in the Australian Parliament by default have done a good job. No. I don't even think many of them are there based purely on merits. I think, there's shady deals that go on a lot with the major parties where people who just, have certain predispositions for wanting to be in these type of roles for whatever reason that might not necessarily have to do with benefiting the country end up in these positions. So I'm not saying by any means that just because you're a man, you're going to do a better job or you've been doing a good job. Look at the state of this country and the debt that we're in. It's just more so the women are not really pushed based on their merits. It's just, I don't know, the messaging is off. It's not like, because they talk so much about quotas, it just makes it feel like these people were just put there as tokens. But, they might not be. But it's just the way it's messaged, right? Anthony Madison. Yeah, you can blame Trump for almost anything. So Trump's fault. That could apply to anything, but yeah, Trump's fault. Great. Love that comment because standard response that you see on social media whenever you follow any kind of progressive, they found some elaborate way to blame Donald Trump for everything. Portia says, trans athletes only create a lot of fuss and attention and the majority of people don't agree with it. Total waste of time to include them. If they want to play sport, don't transition. Simple. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't want to exclude people from wanting to participate in a sporting activity. It's quite healthy to participate in sports and, want to be the best and all these type of things. It's a great thing. It's better than, being a criminal, which is also celebrated depending on which state you are in. So, look, taking part in sports, fine, whatever. But, to actually invade women's spaces, that's what I believe it is. It's a type of invasion. You're robbing, really, you're robbing young women, young girls who put their heart and soul into becoming the best in their field and best in their sport. And you are using a biological advantage, really, being a man in this, because you never really see it the other way around. Yeah, you never really see it the other way around. And I don't want to get too much into this trans thing today, but there has to be other solutions or other ways of doing this. Because unfortunately, sometimes in life things aren't, perfect, and if it comes at the cost of, denying women their spaces and their rights and their freedoms and things that they fought very hard for not that long ago either, it's a problem. That's what I personally believe. Tika says, if they want quotas for high-paid, safe, easy jobs, let's get quotas for the dirty, dangerous jobs. Also, yes. Well, I mean, people always make that comparison online when it comes to these jobs because, yeah, the quotas always seem to tend to go towards, very, like you said, flash laptop class jobs, things you can, do work from home style things. But as long as you look at, start looking at the very hard yakka style work and those type of jobs, well, no one's really interested in pushing quotas for that. That's true. That's a good comment, Tika. Speaking about what's happening in Parliament and quotas and things like this, one of the people that Albanese really needed to get over the line, he believed anyway, was the young vote. And one of the ways that he got young people to really engage in the political process, at least this is what some commentators were saying, was to make reducing the HEX debt, one of the major things of his campaign for re-election. So it's been the first major bill that the Labour Party is putting through in Parliament. And here we have Albanese. He's shared a selfie. He loves selfies. And he's written, these students are amongst the millions who will get 20% wiped off their student debt. Today we introduced a bill to make it happen. There you go. What do you guys think about wiping off 20% off everyone's HEX debt? Now, of course, wiping off 20% means that at the end of the day, like someone's paying for this or not getting their money's worth, right? So these things have been accounted for. This money's been spent. So wiping off, it's not like it's not costing anything. we're either losing revenue that was meant to be got from this, or people are scheming of it, right? So we got Craig Kelly here, who said day one of the new parliament, and Jim is spewing BS. By taking 20% off student debt, he's just loaded up everyone else with more debt. The debt doesn't disappear, it just transferred from students to everybody else. Let's have a listen into Jim Chalmers and what he has to say.
Certain. I'm off to the opening of Parliament, the second term of this Albanese Labor government. The focus is squarely on delivering help with the cost of living, whether it's student debt relief or protecting your penalty rates. It's all about making sure that you can earn more and keep more of what you earn. Now, we've made a lot of progress together as Australians. We've got a lot going for us, even as the global economy becomes more uncertain. But we know that we've got more work to do, and that will be our focus, working hard for you to deliver help with the cost of living at the same time as we strengthen our economy and strengthen our budget. I'm off to the opening of Parliament.
So that's the way that kind of Mr. Jim Chalmers is selling all of this, is to help everyone with the cost of living. And look, I mean, sure, there's a reduction for students on HECS. Most people, maybe at a certain age, who are paying into the tax system would have already paid off their HECS, for instance. And you would have paid it up in full. And now they're doing these things to attract young voters. I remember during the US election, Biden and maybe even Harris was talking about just kind of wiping out all student debt. Right? These schemes are done to it just to get that voting base on side. But like Craig Kelly says, this debt's not, it doesn't disappear, it's just transferred from students to everybody else. Because, I mean, the universities, they would have got their cut, right? They would have got their payment, right? Like, where is this coming from? So I thought this focus, obviously, this was one of their major promises. There's a lot more details about that to come out and a lot more discussions on that to be had. But I'll follow that as well. Maybe in an opposition podcast we might talk about it. ABC did do I think it's a puff piece on it, but let's have a look at it. How will Labor's bill to reduce? Let me make it bigger. How will Labor's bill to reduce a student debt for 3 million people affect you? As Parliament returns this week for the first time since the election, the top items for business for Labor is its election promise to reduce student loans by 20%. Legislation will be introduced on Wednesday and is likely to become law soon after, with both the Coalition and the Greens appearing likely to support it. It means about 3 million Australians will see an automatic adjustment applied to their loans after this year, and also see changes to the repayment rules. Here's how it works. Let's talk about the current system. How will the 20% HECS reduction be applied? Labor's proposal is to apply a one-off 20% reduction to all outstanding loans. If the legislation is passed, the ATO will apply this reduction automatically based on the value of your loan on June 1st, 2025. Indexation, which this year is 3.2%, will be recalculated to apply to the reduced loan. Loans for any course with a census date before June 1 will count, even if they haven't shown up on your ATO account. And if you happen to have repaid the last of your loan since June 1, you may get a refund. On the other hand, if you had already paid off your loan by June 1, there will be no refund, and these changes do not benefit you. So, look, all of this sounds like just a massive way to get the young vote, right? Because I remember watching a lot of young people talking about, why they're voting Labor, and it was about, the HECS debt, right? The reducing the HECS debt. So, Tika says, yeah, just buying votes with our money. Averly says, this will not help others who need support. This is not a good idea at all. HECS worked. We all helped our kids as much as we could. Now our kids will lay the extra tax to pay the debts of these students. I don't agree with it. Abby's got another super chat. Thanks, Abby. Thank you so much for the support. And guys, if you want to support the show and you love what I'm doing, you can do super chats on YouTube. Again, I'm much more liberal in my approach to reading comments than RVM. And he says we can only read super chats. We can make of that what we will. We can talk about that tomorrow. But I read a few more comments, so I really appreciate it. Those of you who are going the extra mile and doing a super chat for me to support the show. Thank you. Abby says they need to fix the school system first. That makes young adults feel pressure to go to uni before living life. Other options need to be supported. I agree, Abby, and I'm someone that regrets going to university. I wish, my life kind of went in a different direction out of school. But again, that was a whole different ball game for me in terms of the pressures to go to university. But I do feel like kids these days do have more options in terms of what they want to do career-wise. But maybe there is still an overemphasis on the university style system, and I don't think it suits everyone. That's just my personal view on that. Now, talking about debt and where we're headed as a country, there was an article that I saw today on the Financial Review that I thought was interesting. I was going to tweet about it, but I thought I'll save it for the show just to go through it with you guys, just to show what's kind of happened to Australia over the last decade or so, and how dependent now Australians are on government services. And the government, because I think those dynamics really change the way that people do vote, and they kind of get stuck in this dependency, this system where they depend so much on government that they might overlook what's best for the country. I think we see a lot of that happening. The HEX thing was similar type of example of that. But this is a really shocking statistic here. This article from the Financial Review today, which I'm just going to make it bigger so we can read it. Oh no, I can't read it. It's only for subscribers. Okay, let's have a look. I'll see if I can find a non-subscriber version. It was available earlier in the day, but now it's only for subscribers. But I remember the article. More than 50% of voters now rely on government for their main income. Just think about that. Let's just focus on the headline. More than 50% of those people who vote in elections, so who are eligible to vote and take part in voting, their income, right? Their main source of income is, dependent on the government. So whether it's some type of welfare, here they've mentioned the NDIS, the public service, whatever it is, 50% of people who vote in this country, in Australia, their main source of income is dependent on the government. Now, do you think that will decrease or increase over the coming years? I feel like it's going to increase more because there's not much being done to free people of this dependency on government, government-based forms of income or subsidies that only hits the working people who pay taxes, where the government gets all this from, the hardest. And everything else goes up for people who work, people who pay tax. And in the meantime, these type of social services, and I know some of this is in the public sector, people who are working, but a lot of these government-dependent style systems that they're creating now is only, harming the rest of us. Add to that state taxes in a state. Yeah, so Abby, it is including government-paid employees, I believe. So, like your public servants and things like doctors, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'll just put that comment up there so people know what I'm talking about. Just referring randomly to comments. I'm starting a new job, nothing amazing, but gets me off the door and back into being a proper man. Look, I don't disagree with systems of welfare designed to help people in the midterm, like in the term of looking for work, or it's good to be in that type of society. Like, I get it. It helps people, definitely. But we do have things where people become 100% dependent, and there's people that are pushing more and more social welfare, and at the end of it, you're just going to live in like a completely socialist country. The government, I don't think they mind taxing people, making us pay more taxes, taxing business owners, small business owners. Let's get that straight, and paying for all these programs. I don't think they care. I think the more dependent you are on them, the more they believe they can, control you and run these systems the way that they want to run them. So, by no means do I think that all types of welfare is bad and people are lazy and this and that. No, I think there are times it definitely helps people. It helps people get on their feet. It helps people who are maybe going through sort of trauma or something. You know, there should be systems in there to help people. People who are disabled definitely should get help from the community, but of course these systems are being abused and scammed. Really, I would say. Let's see. Jean's got a long comment here. I'll just read Straya's response first. It wasn't easy. I don't think the government wants us finding work. Even the army rejected me. Look, it is becoming harder and harder to find work. We just saw an article from, is very specific to the banking industry, but Commonwealth Bank, where I think 300 jobs were cut in Australia, and those 300 jobs, technical jobs or whatever it is, were moved offshore to CBA India. If you ask many people, do you think there's a CBA India? Well, yeah, there is a CBA India. There's a branch, like a business branch of the Commonwealth Bank set up in India, and they are siphoning off work from Australia, technical jobs, tech jobs, IT jobs, things like this that can be done on a computer, and they're sending it off to India. All right, this is what major banks, this Commonwealth Bank, they're full of crap, right? They make all these ads about Australia and how much they love Australia, and at the same time they're sending these jobs off to India. I think all up in total, I could be wrong, you can check this figure out, from memory what I read, it was about 2,000 something jobs already which they've shipped off overseas, predominantly to India. And this is going to become more and more. So surely governments need to be looking at ways to get more Australians employed. And I know one issue that I talk about a lot, and many people raise as a concern, is mass immigration. I don't want to get into that, but all these things play into it. But it's not just that; it's also big businesses here who might not want to, who might find more benefit working overseas and sending off jobs to India. You can't always blame business. Sometimes you got to blame the government. It's not maybe the most conducive environment for businesses to prosper. Like many other countries offer better options for businesses. Aaron's got here, the key is to diversify your skills in your industry. Definitely, I would tell people, especially if they're kind of, a bit younger as well, to upskill yourselves, especially if you think your business or your job could somehow be impacted by AI. Know about how these tools and things work. Apologies, guys. I got a bit of a sore throat. I'm just gonna put some liquid. Give me a second. I just had a comment before that I wanted to read, which is from Jean. So Jean says, "Hey Rukshan, I was speaking to my daughter-in-law who worked in a childcare center for a couple of months and quit because of this shit. I had heard rumors about where you had to ask babies permission to change their nappy and garbage like that. I didn't actually believe that was true and thought it was all crap. Well, she just confirmed that it was true, as well as other ridiculous ideology that she confirmed. Who the hell comes up with these insane crap?" I'll take this as a statement, Jean, because there is a few things I want to maybe perhaps talk about childcare in the coming episodes. That is another policy or a bill style thing that the government introduced. We have had recently those incidents at the childcare centres where that man, I forgot his name, Joshua Brown or something like this, has been accused of sexually, raping some children. And it's sick stuff, and there definitely needs to be some reform within the childcare industry. Whether it's about asking babies permission and stuff, it does sound a bit wacky there. These kids would have no idea. So I think it's obviously some of that stuff is kind of woke, and you don't want to introduce things like that. But it's more about having the correct standards. I think the government wants to tie funding, the federal funding for childcare services, to their adherence to obviously not having these type of breaches of people not feeling safe at childcare centres. So I will keep this comment as a statement when I look through that particular bill as well. Not on today's show, but on a later show. Thanks for all the comments, guys. I'm just taking it pretty chill here, reading the comments. Wyndon, one of my trolls. Rukshan, what do you think of the death penalty for pedos? Yeah, look, I'm not opposed to the death penalty for people who commit sick crimes. especially against children. I'm not opposed to that, no. But the standard proof has to be very high. We can't have it just can't be default death penalty. The standard of proof to prove that this definitely happened 100%, and the type of offending I think has to be a very high standard. But yeah, I'm not opposed to death penalty for people that abuse children, especially well, all children of course, but the sickness of abusing children when you're in a position of responsibility to care for children. I think that should be almost default death penalty based on the evidence, because that is a massive breach of trust. Parents obviously drop children off at childcare expecting their children to be safe, and then to think that the people who are there looking after the children are the ones doing this is just, sick. Porter says mass immigration definitely has a toll. Most of the small businesses in my area have been taken over by Indians, and they only hire their own family and friends. Sorry, I'm not laughing because I don't agree with you. I actually agree with you. This is the thing, right? So Indians, Chinese, Vietnamese. You've seen parts in Springvale, for instance, or parts of Richmond. It's all kind of Vietnamese, Asian shops, and now it's the Indians are doing that now. So they've come to Australia over a number of decades, and recently that's increased a lot as well. A lot of them are entrepreneurial. A lot of them want to have businesses. A lot of them open businesses. Sometimes there's like too many Indian shops and Indian restaurants, and like there's different parts of India as well, and so there's different types of Indian restaurants and serving different types of Indian people and ethnicities. It's like insane. So you do see a lot of these shops pop up, and they do definitely. If someone's selling a business, like we had like at one of my offices for my photography studio, we had this awesome pizza store next to us run by an Italian guy named Joe, and and he'd been doing it for like 30-40 years, making pizza and running, working in restaurants, and his pizza was awesome. Like it was just like this, it was just so good, not just because he was like a neighbor, but it was just like awesome pizza. I loved going to Joe's to have pizza. And then all of a sudden Joe was retiring, a bit older of age, and was kind of giving up on that business in the sense of moving on. Just he's just been doing it for a long time, and he was bought up by Indians, and the pizza was not the same after that. So, but the Indians will come out and buy all types of shops. Doesn't matter if they're not Italian or whatever it is. They'll try to make pizza. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's fine. It's Australia. It's a free country. You can do this, but this happens, and these are the individuals now that are splashing money around to buy up a lot of these old businesses. So you'll see more and more of that. I don't know what to make of that per se, in the sense of, is it a good or bad thing? I think when I go to, well, I do have an opinion actually. When I go to like Elizabeth Street, for instance, in the city, and maybe parts of Swanston Street, it's very clear that majority of those businesses now are owned by Asian people. So whether it's Indians or predominantly Chinese in that area, I believe. A lot of the restaurants, the options for people to eat food at, even the ice cream shops, and almost everything. It's like you're in the cosmopolitan, Singapore or Malaysia, and but we have places like that. We have Lygon Street, for instance, in Victoria, where it's predominantly a lot of Italian shops. But even that, I think, is changing. Even Chapel Street's changed a lot. I'm talking about streets in Melbourne. I'm sure in your cities and your towns, you would have areas where it's kind of been predominantly a certain type of food. It is changing. It's becoming a lot of Chinese and Indian. But yeah, I'm not a fan of any of that kind of cuisine. I like homemade food, and I like my Nando's, which is a Portuguese fast food chain, I guess, in a way. And I want to see more variety, but I reckon it'll change. Like it'll change, but it might not change back to things that people are happy with. So it'll change to like maybe Afghan restaurants or Sudanese restaurants. Like that's kind of how Australia's going, and in rural towns as well. Yes, I'll just check this next super chat. This is from Abby again. Abby, thank you so much. they need to fix the school system first that makes young adults feel pressured to go to uni before living life. Other options need to be supported. Yeah, that's going back to our school chats that I was talking about. So definitely, I wish I did. I wish I did not go to law school straight out of university. I think I should have done what I wanted to do, which is this kind of stuff, right? The media and eventually the photography and the creative arts. I was very much into the creative arts, and that field, and computers and technology. But I did law for whatever reason, and I regret doing that because I feel like I wasted a few years. But maybe that's okay as well. It's very hard to say what your future is going to turn out as soon as you leave school. But there should definitely be, I guess, kids should be encouraged to maybe at an earlier age try to figure out a few things about what they want to do afterwards. Or maybe that happens during uni. I don't know. Drew B, thank you. Great show. Thank you. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. And thanks for watching. All right, Swindon, I will indulge your question. Rukshan, is the great replacement real? Gotta be careful with how I answer this, Swindon. But look, people are being, whether it's happening. How do I answer this question? Is it real? It's real to the sense that, if you look at the way that demographics are changing, it is happening unintentionally in some instances. What I mean is, certain groups that come to Australia, they have more children. For lack of a better way to describe this, they breed more, bigger families, and it changes demographics. Definitely, over time, it changes demographics, and we're seeing many places in Australia where the demographics are rapidly changed. Of course, then add to that, you also have mass immigration, and then you have student immigration in most Australian states where the universities are very heavy on bringing people in as students. And over time, you go to certain places, and it's different. I am in parts of Melbourne where I feel like I'm, maybe in Mumbai, or parts of, Melbourne where I feel like I'm in Beijing. And what happened to the diversity? Like, we talk about diversity so much, but some places are becoming non-diverse in the sense that it's becoming, Asianized. And it's true in that sense. I don't think it's deliberate. Maybe what Swindon is saying, I don't think it's deliberate by the people who are coming here. I see a lot of blame attributed to immigrants themselves. I don't think they actually understand the downsides of this type of thing. I see it as someone who's grown up in Australia at a time where, at least in my interpretation, it wasn't like this. Predominantly, I was not in the majority when I went to the city of Melbourne, if I go back to my younger years. And it's different. I see the disadvantages of it 100%. It shouldn't be happening, definitely. But I don't think it's a deliberate ploy by immigrants themselves, necessarily. They're just obviously looking for opportunities, better outcomes. And as long as the doors are open, as long as they're being welcomed, they're going to come. I mean, it just makes sense that they're going to come. I mean, this doesn't matter if it's intentional or not, though. Within homicide, there's a murder and manslaughter. The same apply to genocide. I mean, you can't compare it to. I'm laughing because you can't make that type of comparison. Who are you specifically blaming for this act? If you're blaming your government, well, then you're responsible for your government. I think people ultimately are responsible for their governments. If you're blaming the globalist organizations, still, you're responsible for your governments. You do have countries where they are in control of their immigration. Now, look at the difference between United States of America under Donald Trump and the United States of America under Biden. Massive difference in the way that they've cut down on their immigration. So, who are you specifically blaming? What are the reasons for it? Also, I'm not saying anyone that is pro-immigration. You can't. I think it's very broad, because I don't think immigration in itself is the problem here. I don't personally believe it's immigration that is the problem. I think it's the mass immigration, over-immigration, and it's this dependency that we have. I talked about dependency before when you talked about how many people are now dependent on the government for their main income. Well, the Australian government, whether you like it or not, have made themselves dependent on bringing in migration into the country to help pay for some of this ridiculous debt that they're incurring. Like, that's their way of thinking about this, but it's got other major downsides. And again, the local population has to suffer. So yeah, it's a complex one. When you talk about the Great Replacement, the conspiratorial side of it, I don't tend to 100% agree with in the way that it's been framed. But is it kind of happening? Are people, are cultures being changed in a country like Australia? Yes, I do 100% believe that Australia is being changed. And I think it's been changed for the better? No. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. So Rukshan Fernand, the greatest Australian politician to have never become a politician. Cool. So the government is the problem. Which party should I vote for to stop immigration? I mean, you shouldn't be asking me, Swindon. You should be doing that research yourself. I mean, there's political parties. If you believe the answer is purely just to stop all immigration, there's many parties, or even One Nation, have said to cut net immigration. So many people have proposed this, but the major parties don't see this as an option 100%. Here's one of my favorite trolls here that came last show as well. I have no idea what this name means, but they love to troll me. Please continue your trolling. The more you comment, the more the algorithm picks up on it, and the more the show gets distributed around. So thank you for your trolling. It does help me get this show out there. I appreciate it. So next up, guys, I just kind of went on a bit of a tangent there, answering questions. I wanted to talk about maybe some of the other bills that were introduced by different members. Not bills, sorry, other statements made by some of the senators. So I did talk the other day about it was the World Health Organization, but Senator Babette had a response to that in the Parliament today. So let's just play that.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. Now, this government has betrayed our nation. How? By refusing to reject the WHO's International Health Regulation amendments just last week. In doing so, what have they done? They've jeopardised our sovereignty, ceding key decisions for our nation to unelected, unaccountable global bureaucracies, namely the WHO, who have no allegiance to the Australian people whatsoever. These amendments that have just passed, they grant the WHO sweeping authority to dictate our national response to so-called health emergencies, lockdowns, border closures, travel bans, forced masking, fast-track injections. Whatever the WHO declares, we are expected to obey. That is not democracy, that's dictatorship wrapped in a white coat. That's what it is. After everything that we Australians went through during the botched COVID response, why on earth would we hand more power over to such a foreign body? Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has warned that these changes lay the foundation for a global medical surveillance regime. That is not speculation, it's spelled out in the text. And yet our government, this government, has signed us up without consultation, without debate, without consent. Is it shocking? Not really. North Korea, yes, North Korea sits on the WHO's executive board, and it's no wonder that the US has just rejected these amendments outright. So why is Australia so eager to be controlled? It's time to keep our country safe, and we don't need Geneva to tell us what to do. We can do that ourselves.
Thank you, Senator. Time's
So that was Senator Babette there. I thought, that was something I was talking about, or many of us were talking about last couple of days, which is that just how quickly Australia rolled over on these international health regulation amendments by the WHO. And, the contrast between Australia and the United States of America is very stark, because the Americans under Robert F. Kennedy have completely rejected the WHO on this matter. So, that's kind of how Senator Babette has started. We've also got Alex Antic, who's talking about another issue. So we do have these senators fighting on these issues, but the mainstream senators, the Labour Party, most of the Liberal senators do not touch these type of topics. But some of the views and things that we've had on this show do get discussed by some of the minor party senators. So people are representing people like us who are a bit more sane in the Parliament House. I wanted to show that as well. So Senator Dilma. So Dilma Fernando. They make tea in Sri Lanka. So yeah, you can call me Senator Dilma if you want. Abby says the only Who that should exist is the rock band, another BS corrupt organization. The troll's name translates to dangerous danger. I'm just gonna ignore the troll now, guys. Just let the Greek troll continue. Fine. We had Senator Antic. This is shared by Australians versus the Agenda. So if you kind of wanted to keep up with Parliament, Australians versus the Agenda does watch Parliament throughout the morning and the day, and they do clip certain videos from there. But this was, I think, an important introduction. Private Senator's Bill from Alex Antic to amend the Sex Discrimination Act. It actually goes back to, I guess, what we were talking about, the definition of women and men, transgender, sports, all those things. It plays into all of that. But Alex Antic, he said he introduced a private member's bill to the Sex Discrimination Act to amend it, removing references to gender identity and restoring the definition of man and woman, changes made under the Gillard government in 2013. So let's have a listen to Alex Antic and what he had to say.
And I call Senator Antic.
Thank you. I rise to indicate that I intend to introduce a private senator's bill to amend the Sex Discrimination Act by removing the references to gender identity and restoring the Act to its original purpose. In 2013, the Gillard government introduced gender identity as a protected attribute of the Act, and this changed the Act's intent, creating a situation where the safety, privacy and opportunities of women are now challenged pursuant to the very law that was designed to protect them. Sex is not a social construct. It's a core biological reality that underpins human nature and the protections the Act was meant to provide. And the 2013 amendments made discrimination based on one's appearance or mannerisms with reference to gender identity an offence. It is this approach that has led to outcomes which one suspects were not actually properly considered at the time of the amendment in 2013. If we really care about those who are suffering from gender dysphoria, we should be speaking this truth, not amplifying the issue. And the confusion, it must be said, needs to end. My bill would remove the references to gender identity and restore the Act's clear definitions of man and woman as members of the male and female sex, respectively, ensuring that the Act once again protects women, upholds fairness and respects the truth.
I mean, it's just like common sense. It's just insane that that this is what it's come to, where we're going to try to undo some of this damage that's been done by these extremist progressives, this time in the Gillard government in 2013, just to basic stuff about what a man and a woman is. But good on Senator Alex Antic. I think these things need to be tackled. These are fights that are worth fighting. I don't think they're a waste of time at all. I think these are the most important things that we need to ensure that we push back against, because it's the erosion of the most common sense, the basic biological facts, things like this that they try to change. If you allow them to change that, they can almost change anything and impact your lives in ways you can't even imagine. So, getting these victories, if possible, if something like this were to amend this Sex Discrimination Act, it would have a wide-ranging impact, I believe. So, important stuff there. Yeah, Abby, definitely this is a real man. We need more like him in Parliament. He definitely stands out as a senator for the Liberal Party, because even the Liberal Party, they do come across as Labour light sometimes, and Alex Antic does get attacked, but I think he does a great job of representing the conservative cause, which is a lot of it is around common sense, really. Next up, guys, talking about common sense, someone that has almost no common sense is the senator for, is it Pakistan, Palestine? Is it somewhere in New South Wales? I don't know. It's confusing sometimes with Maroon Faruqi, exactly who she's working for, the Green Senator, Maroon Faruqi. I have watched videos of her where she sits in Parliament and then gets up and complains about Pakistan and blames Australia for climate change in Pakistan. And on the first day of Parliament, she decided to, as the Governor General was speaking to the chambers, to disrupt that with her protest with a prop. And look, people have different opinions on this, and this might be a worthwhile cause and stuff, but there's certain rules within the Parliament, and one of them is about not using props and doing these type of protests. So she wrote, she was holding a sign saying Gaza is starving, words won't feed them, sanction Israel. And this is doing the Governor General speech to Parliament, the Speaker, or the President of the House, whatever, whichever chamber, was not really in a position to call this out, that this particular behavior during that time. And, she maintained it during the entire speech of the Governor General. Now, today she was being sanctioned herself for it by the Senate, and they were, I believe, trying to suspend her, there's a term for it. It doesn't come to my mind right now, but she was being called out for it. Let's just leave it at that. She actually had a bit of a rant when that happened, and this is I clipped a bit of what she said during that rant, because this goes to show you the kind of nonsense that's in her head, and I really wanted to talk about it. So let's have a look at what she said today when they were trying to sanction her. Here it is. Here's a clip.
Down on black and... But you know what? You are more focused on cracking down on black and brown women in this Parliament. You've done this before. MPs here and outside of here are accusing me of being disrespectful and denigrating the Parliament. And you should all reflect for a minute even on your silence and your complicity and even enabling of a genocide. That is what degrades this place. That is what reflects poorly on this place. Not a sign trying to wake you up from your moral stupor. But you know what? You are more focused on cracking down on black and brown women in this Parliament. You've done this before. Yes, you have done this before. You have done this before.
Order!
You are more focused...
Senator Faruqi, I've asked you to sit down. You may not have heard me because there was too much noise.
Yeah, so look, I think, Faruqi, again, the senator for Pakistan, Palestine, and doesn't seem like she's a senator for anything to do with Australia or whichever state that she's representing, I believe New South Wales. The Greens are, of course, hell-bent on this particular issue. They spent a lot of time, last Parliament talking about this issue in Palestine, and again this Parliament as well. Yesterday there was a pro-Palestine protest outside the Parliament. It was, I think, disruptive in some instances as well. And the Greens, obviously, Maroon Faruqi, all these guys went there. They spoke there at this particular rally, which was trying to disrupt Parliament. So you see the way that they adorn themselves with different props, I guess, in a way. And they do protest. They break all the rules. They show disrespect while the Governor General is there, for instance, opening the Parliament. And the Labour Party, the government of the day, has been quite tough. Penny Wong has been quite tough on Israel. Australia has sent, I believe Australia sent about $110 million worth of aid to the region, to Gaza. So it's not like Australia's not pulling their weight. People might argue about if they could do more, whatever. That's fine. The Greens can argue about that all they like and raise concerns using their position if that's what they want to do, and not represent Australia and Australian issues. And in this instance, Faruqi has gone straight to just calling everyone racist. I mean, that's technically what she did. For her, if you don't raise the issues of what's happening in Palestine, and you call her out for breaking parliamentary rules, as she did by disrespecting the Parliament and obviously protesting, holding the signs, then apparently it's because the Parliament is always cracking down on black and brown women. And that's not true at all. I think, there's so much. The Parliament is very diverse. I've seen a lot of people of color in the Parliament. A lot of opportunities for people like Faruqi. And, she's able in Australia, after coming from Pakistan, to stand up in our Senate, in the Parliament there, and, speak her mind as a senator in Australia. And then to talk about this kind of racism and this kind of nonsense. The same thing that Lydia Thorpe does, right? She's this Indigenous woman, and she talks about how oppressed she is while she's, getting the taxpayer-funded role as a senator, as a representative. It's just insane listening to these people. I think they just make everyone else look bad. And Faruqi is just obsessed with foreign issues. The Greens are obsessed. They're obsessed with Palestine and these issues. The point of, I believe, not doing their job for the constituents in this country. But people vote for these guys. So people vote for them. This is, there's a big section of the population, I think 10 or 12% of people that vote this particular way. And this is their representatives. And a lot of time is wasted because of this. I believe the duty of all Australian politicians, senators, and, members of the lower house, primary focus is on the Australian constituents, the citizens that put them there to represent, issues locally in the country that they live in Australia. They try to use this platform to be like social justice activists, and it's just distracting. It's a waste of time, and I don't agree with any of this nonsense. And Faruqi, she got back in there, but I wouldn't care if she's suspended or kicked out. Danger is seething. I know he's still going on with the comments, my number one troll. Phoebe says she used Parliament to roleplay. The divisive scarf should not be allowed. Black or brown woman. I think, they get away with the scarves because it's just a scarf, I guess. But yeah, obviously it's very symbolic that they do this. She speaks more articulately than you, Senator Dilmar. That's fine. She can speak better than me. She can be all things better than me, but I just don't believe that she's a senator that represents Australia. And I believe Pauline Hanson has rightly called her out and told her what needs to be said, because a lot of people would agree with what Pauline Hanson has said in that regard. But look, let's keep moving on, guys. I think I have maybe one more story, and then we'll call it a night for the show. Let's just have a look at my stories that I left. Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about the flag, because that was a big trending topic on my feed, at least. And this was about the Mornington Council that was banning the Australian flag. So let me just pull this up. And I'll talk about this tomorrow with Avi, because he was actually there at the protest. Apologies. Now let's have a look at this.
Public space and it's not private. We definitely have. I can show you the section of the Act and everything.
Do you know where the rule is?
So council made it very clear what our direction was. We're not, the draft policy probably didn't hit the mark, so that's been withdrawn from tonight's agenda.
Is that totally, or is it coming back?
It'll come back after it's been adjusted.
When may it come back?
Next meeting, possibly. I'm not sure. Next meeting or the meeting after that.
So why was it withdrawn?
I'll just give you my personal view. I don't think it meant the intent of the council resolution, so we've withdrawn it from the agenda, and that will get fixed.
So it had nothing to do with the fact that there was protest?
No, I'm not worried about the protest. This is why I'm here standing talking to you. I'm just letting you know you can sit around for an hour, but you'll get disappointed because it's not on the agenda.
So that was the mayor of Mornington City Council, and they've come out, and yesterday they were meant to deliberate about the ban of the Australian flag because of cultural sensitivities, because it might be culturally unsafe. But they have pulled back and decided not to discuss it yesterday. So whether it was the protest or not, I don't know. But for whatever reason, they've pulled out yesterday and decided not to make it a matter. And for now, apparently, there's no issues whatsoever with the Australian flag. Apparently, they're going to look at it and come back later on. But I just wanted to share that because I did talk about this on my last episode. So that's the update. The Australian flag, for now, is okay in the Mornington Peninsula. The council is not doing anything at the moment, and at least the mayor, to his credit, seems to be someone that's not for this type of ban. It looks like it might be one individual or a couple of, crazy left-wing progressive people in that council who are pushing these type of crazy agendas like banning the Australian flag. But yeah, guys, that's it. I will talk about RVM with RVM about this probably tomorrow on the Opposition podcast at 7 p.m. You guys can join in for that, and we'll go over this protest and watch some of this video as well with Avi, who was there covering it, asking him about the protest, because I think there was a handful of people, I believe 50 or so people that turned up with Australian flag. So it's always good to see the people get out there and challenge these local councils that tend to, power play a lot when it comes to trying to change certain cultural aspects that have been normal for a long time in Australia, but they want to influence that. So we'll talk about that tomorrow with Avi Yemeni on the Opposition podcast. Guys, thanks for joining in for another episode of Rukshan on X. I'm very tired. I had a very long day today, but I still wanted to do the show because I believe consistency is the key. And doing these shows, doing the lives, chatting with you guys, reading the comments, reading from my trolls. It's always good fun. I'm really enjoying it. And the more I do it, the more I'm comfortable with the whole setup and even just kind of randomly talking about these topics. So you might think it's not very polished, but that's because I'm actually not putting 100% effort into making this very serious. I really, really want to do it a bit more casual so we don't go off into very serious spaces. Unless, of course, I'm replying to a comment. I want to keep it very open and neutral and easy for people to understand what we're talking about and include all of you in the conversation. So I'm really enjoying, guys, the comments. Someone did ask before, why Rukshan? I should get this out there more because there's only a handful of people watching. I'm not really pushing it, guys, so I'm just doing it. I'd rather just build the audience over time organically and naturally. I know I can promote it a little bit more, but I don't really even do that. I just kind of go live. Overall today, I think I've had about 1,000 views or viewers at different points across the different platforms. So depending on where you're watching, you'll see different view accounts. So I'm simulcasting to multiple platforms. So again, I don't mind. Over time, I'd rather build a small community of people that tune in regularly and join in and take part in this. Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. Personally, a lot of the podcasts and shows and live shows I watch, I just prefer it more chill, more natural. Just even if it's a bit of it's a bit slow to flip through articles or things change as the show goes on. I just personally, that's what I like to watch. So I want to do something similar like that. So yeah, perfect. I'll end with this comment: Australian flag. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you all have a good night. If you're watching from around Australia, if you're watching from elsewhere, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thanks again, guys, for joining in. You can find me at The Real Rukshan on X. You'll see it at the bottom right-hand corner of this stream. You can find me on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow. I want to thank everyone for the super chats that you've done. I think I've read them all out. I really appreciate those of you who are supporting the channel this way. And Nathaniel, yes, I do agree. Small, intimate audiences are much better. Yeah, look, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with my my troll here. I don't want to go because he's just writing great comments. He needs to get back to the tea field and harvest the Dilmah leaves. I don't know what these comments are meant to be like. Are they meant to offend me? Are they meant to make me laugh? Because I'm really enjoying these type of comments. Because would I go working the tea field? I mean, if Dilmah Fernando, his son, I believe his son's got a different name now. The Fernandos, if they gave me a job in the tea fields, because they are Fernandos as well, I would probably maybe go work there because it's a very successful multi-million-dollar company that makes a lot of money around the world and in Australia. So I wouldn't mind working in the tea fields depending on the job that they give me. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you all on the Opposition podcast tomorrow night. Take care.